Okay.
Okay, take 25. Let's go.
So I'm going to have to overdub this. We're going to pretend that I...
All right, try it one more time while I get coffee.
Okay.
There you go.
USA. Outstanding.
That was a perfect rendition of the national anthem.
Well,
Anthem.
I'm glad you did another take. You nailed it. It's good. That was good. Very Jimi Hendrix
Mark.
of you.
Oh my gosh.
Hey.
Yes. Happy birthday, USA.
Woo!
Woohoo! It's the 4th of July.
Yeah.
People are wondering why we're even recording this because it's a national holiday in the US. But
so you're going to play the national song, or?
He did.
He just did.
Jimi
came
Hendrix.
on.
Oh, wow.
You're gonna have to watch the recording, Mark.
yeah.
Last time it was very epic.
That was awesome.
It
And
was epic.
last night I watched Independence Day.
You did.
Again.
It's like you have to do it every. We won't go quietly into the night. We won't disappear without a fight. Yeah, I mean, we took down the aliens.
Oh yeah,
Epic.
it's all about the. Oh my god. Let's not go there.
Let's not.
Oh man! All right.
Yeah. So what? Hey, Olivier, it's great to have you back. What's up, man?
Good to have you. Great to be back. Yeah. Well, I've been busy integrating, OT with IT, and whining a little bit about the fights between the two populations there.
Why are we still fighting?
That's interesting.
That's what I want to know. Why are we still fighting about IT and OT? How come we just can't all get along, huh?
It does feel like I say that on that last IoT show episode, like a clash of the clans, where they are clans, they're neighbors, they're friends, they're family, right? And they're still fighting. What's going on there?
But
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah.
Those OT guys think the IT guys are full of shit. They think the IT guys brought all the problems on them, all the viruses, all the hackers, all the bad things.
All the network exposure. Yeah.
are they right? Are they right or not?
They're right. And my computer just froze.
Oh, you're good. You're still with us, Rob.
You did. You look fine. Yeah.
All right. My computer screen just went black and everything. Like when Windows decides to update the video drivers while you're using the computer.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like
your camera works.
Just let it be.
All right, I'm just going to sit back.
You're on camera. You're good. Just forget about the
screen. Somebody posted something funny on Microsoft Old Timers this morning about a scenario where Windows didn't update itself and put bloatware and do all kinds of bad things to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it says message telling you you're fired.
Now it says Zoom is not responding. Would you like to send to Zoom. Maybe it doesn't like my graphics card.
Yeah, just wait for it to come back. It will. We'll
okay.
just like
All right.
at some point just
Maybe it'll
like it's like these inflatable big huge things at a car dealership. Like at some point Windows will like, oh, I'm back. And then maybe not. Right.
And I'm back.
And,
Yeah. I'm going to upgrade my laptop to Windows 98 SE.
SE.
Yeah.
I dare you to install Windows Vista.
Special edition. Oh, wow.
I don't know if I could go Vista.
Yeah.
We had this one version of the operating system that we could not get people to stop using, and it was called Windows XP.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like we spent more than a decade trying to get companies to stop using it. But you know why they kept using it? Because it just worked. It was like a workhorse,
Really
it just did. But
Mark doesn't agree with that statement.
And we're like, but we got something better for you to upgrade to from XP. It's called Windows Vista. Yeah.
It's prettier.
Yeah, it's prettier. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So back to that OT-IT thing. I think I realized that the choice for the acronym IoT was the worst ever because poor people from OT were convinced IoT was from IT, and poor people from IT believe that IoT comes from OT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's disaster. So like all the letters are in that acronym, but IoT, as I was saying, could be that missing link to reunite the clans.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it was random? The name was completely, it was, right? It was not related to industry at the beginning.
I don't think the terms IT and OT, IT was used certainly at the time we invented IoT as a term. But OT, I'm not so sure. I think it's a more recent term, isn't it?
No.
I don't.
So I don't know. In my experience, particularly at Hitachi, I spent most of my time with the OT guys. In Japan, in factories all the time, and actually they were really nice guys, to be honest with you.
I mean, the SCADA and the MES guys have been around forever, right?
Yeah, and so they were like, we've been around forever. The whole thing just became. It's as soon as we tried to make that connection, and it started with network connections, right? That's when bad gremlins were able to cross over into the OT land. That's kind of where the war started right there. It's like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Because prior to that, you had said machine on the factory floor, and it was just connected to a nearby Windows 95 computer, showing, some analytics and stuff like that, using the magic of Olay automation.
Uh-oh. What happened?
We lost them.
Windows got restarted. And it's get restarted.
All right. So since he's gone, let's do our disclaimer. I forgot what it is. Take us seriously at your own risk.
Exactly.
We're just here to have fun. And if we accidentally say something insightful and meaningful, then good for you. Hey, remind me, is this the way it goes? I'm drawing a blank. I don't know what's happened to me this morning. I just cut a podcast earlier before that. That's why I was late in starting this recording. But how do we do this? Anyways, we're just here to have fun. Hopefully you'll have fun as well. An unintended outcome of our discussions will undoubtedly be a couple of nuggets of insight that will make all the difference in your business, will make all the difference in industry.
in your life. In your life.
Yeah, I mean, think about how impactful this episode is going to be.
Totally. And just for the sake of making sure. So I was saying that the term OT appeared after the term IoT, and that's confirmed. Gartner coined OT or started using that term, operational technology. Not saying that the technology was used before, not, but Gartner starting to say 2006. The term IoT was 1999, right? So I was right.
Gartner.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, if Gartner said it, yeah.
Gartner said
whatever.
it, and Copilot just told me, so it must be true, right?
That's like saying McKinsey came out and said blah 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 blah. You know, it'll be a $50 billion industry by 2020.
It's an acronym for this is what these guys we just discovered have been doing and are doing that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
We're going to start a team who's going to try to figure out what the hell these people are doing.
Isn't it all interesting? There was that time that we thought the important thing was that so Gartner, General Electric, because GE was still a thing back then, Ericsson, they all said 50 billion devices by 2020. And everybody thought that was the goal or the yardstick or whatever to achieve. Like that was what success meant. And you had people at Cisco, everything that can be connected should be connected. Let's just have a connection party.
Yeah, Internet of Everything.
That's right. That's right.
Things, everything.
And Internet of Everything, you know. And you know what? I remember our good friend Maribel Lopez, you know, doing lots of videos for Cisco back then, and we're going to do this and everything like that, you know. And I don't know if that was the right thing, you know, trying to go after a number of connected devices. That's very telco sounding, very I live in SIM cards. How many SIMs can I sell? That kind of thing. And then McKinsey said it was going to be an $11 trillion marketplace. And so that's why all the companies went all in. And gosh, I don't know. Olivier probably remembers, back in the early days of Azure IoT, after we migrated off from Intelligent System Service, Satya came out and said, we're going to invest $5 billion in IoT because it's the biggest thing of all time, you know, because my friends at McKinsey just told me.
Yeah.
And so, a whole lot of investment was made, a whole lot of people were hired, and then a whole lot of people were laid off.
Yeah. Well, just like Metaverse. Oh, we are a Metaverse company.
Yes.
2 years later.
That term came in and went. Oh, by the way, Rob, that makes me think. I'm seeing more and more people not using the word digital twins, but needing and wanting to use the concept of digital twin, like modeling their data, establishing relationship when they get to a place where systems are more complex, more composed. They want to have the hierarchy of their assets, installations, and so on. And everyone is like, hey, we need something like that. It's like, wait a second, like there are like a bunch of services out there that claim to be digital twins platforms. So that's what you're looking for, right? It's like, we've been talking about that for the last 5 to 10 years. Like, where were you?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know if I have the document here. I should show it on the screen if I can find it. The design for something I called Lumada 3, which never saw the light of day. But the whole system was built on digital twins. Like the system itself was digital twins. Like, because like you're talking about, it was like, it's a way of modeling data structures and things like that. And so every last bit of the system itself was also modeled like digital twins, from subsystems to machines to assembly lines to multiple lines to factories, connecting factories all over the planet. And they're all twins of twins of twins. Sometimes there was like multiple parent-child. Sometimes it was peer relationships. And the software was built that way. And yes, I'll see if I can find the diagram here while we're doing there. It was.
And if you have anything.
But I think that today's holidays, I think it's as well a good opportunity if you are here to watch the big IoT Coffee Talk about intelligent assets versus digital twins.
That was a classic, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
That was.
Talking about epic moments, yeah.
That was an epic moment.
Oh my God.
Epic.
We should revive some of those. We should promote some of those old. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 6 years now. Can you believe that?
What?
We're going on our 6th year, nonstop.
So 6 years, about 50 episodes a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, we're on our 6th year right now. Can you believe it?
Really?
No, we started in 2020.
Yeah,
it's a 6th year, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to find. Oh wait, I think I found the PowerPoint deck. Actually,
Rob, in that document, is there anything that says, "Please do not associate digital twin with 3D rendering"? do not consider this 3D visualization as being the twin. Like, please, do you have something like that in there? Because I think that's what ruined the thing. Like, people just associating a digital twin to its 3D rendering versus its value in modeling.
Yes,
right. I'm gonna share my screen and show you some cool stuff. And you're right, it's not 3D rendering. I'm gonna show you two things. First, I'm gonna show you, it's always good to have like a mascot or a logo or something. You know, kind of like I have Bucky with me right now from Bucky's that none of you guys know about except for Bill.
The chip, or that was Alvin.
Maybe you should have called that Digital Bucky and not Digital
Bucky. Twin. Yes. All right. Okay. Now I can share. I'm going to first share you a picture. This will be very Japanese for you. Wait for it. Where'd it go?
Yes.
You see that?
What? Is this a Lumada robot?
That was our, it's like one of the Japanese Gundam warriors,
Yeah.
Did you ever have those when you were a kid?
Yeah.
That came before Transformers. Anyway, that was kind of our, Yeah. And then I'm going to now show you. I'm going to open up
a copyright infringement here, right? I don't know if anyone cares.
Indeed. Yeah, there is no confidential. It's not confidential information, right?
Yeah, everything I'm going to show you is top secret.
Right.
Wow, Lumada 3.
Wow.
Oh my God, look at this stuff. This is back in, I guess it's 2016, 2017. This was an idea of in a factory where everything is a twin. And so you can see, and also there's that notion of, especially as we were moving into this Industry 4 and all there was this remember one of the principles around Industry 4 was this idea of rapid retooling of a factory. And instead of having static assembly lines all the time, we're going to be dynamically changing. Or mass customization was part of Industry 4 way back when, if you remember. And so everybody wanted a unique car and designed just for them. And so it required wireless, really powerful wireless, because the cabling like we normally use in factories with Ethernet was going to be tough to rearranging all the time. But yeah, you can kind of see that notion of the idea of, a machine, a subsystem of a machine, an assembly line, the people who are working with it, your people and machines working together, and then factories and that kind of deal. And so it was that, just like, Heppelmann's early Harvard Business Review deal that, from PTC that really kicked a lot of the stuff off that ultimately led to systems of systems.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that was cool.
I noticed the use of the word avatar versus twin.
Yes, we call them asset avatars instead of digital twins. In a manufacturing company, everybody thinks of everything as an asset, and so that was kind of normal. And then in Japan, they thought that avatar made more sense than digital twin. To reflect what they were thinking. And so, everything was an asset avatar.
Isn't that when the movie Avatar came out?
Yeah. And here's this came out before Microsoft tried to do this digital twin, DTLD or whatever markup language. So we created this like a year and a half before.
Getting old.
To do that. So this was all this design stuff to create Lumada 3. And you know what? And Olivier will remember, you knew Steve Hagendorfer, right?
Yeah.
So Steve and I, towards the end, were designing all this stuff.
Nice.
There was this notion and how to make it all work. There was this notion that Hitachi was not going to use a public cloud at all. And so, we've talked about that before, factory plant managers like saying data doesn't leave my factory. I can't use a cloud. And that was part of the failure for GE Predix, because GE decided to build their own cloud. And then guess what? All the manufacturing people said, we're not sending 1 ounce of data to your cloud. It stays inside this building. And so we had to design a system where it never used a public cloud and connected across the whole planet. All the factories across private circuits, like MPLS and fiber. And so all the factories, so everything was an avatar, a digital twin. And that's how we modeled the whole planet and figured out how we would get the whole thing to work and bubble up, data from operations all over the world.
But at the end of the day, you still had your Lumada core was the orchestrator, all of that, right? And it was hosted on a rack of servers. There was a private cloud, but it was still a cloud.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. It was, it would be in a Hitachi controlled data center. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You do need some kind of global registry, right? Of something.
Yeah, true. Unless you have something that is decentralized and like a blockchain type of thing.
Yeah.
But Walker Reynolds would not like this architecture actually.
But
because you don't use MQTT.
But the blockchain, the whole distributed nature of everything is what drives the whole edge stuff, right? So I mean, in order to actually do that, the distributed ledger is nothing more than an additional layer. It's not in the core of everything. It's 100% in a different layer. And the rules and everything associated with that have all to do with what events you're trying to capture that actually go on that ledger. And then there's a workflow that kicks off that's associated with that. And all of this has to do with state. Mm-hmm. And that is probably one of the biggest fallacies that I think a lot of these quote unquote digital twin platforms and digital twin solution providers, give it a name. But that's where they fail. Number one, you'll hear them talk about digital twins. You won't hear them talking about state.
Mm-hmm.
You will not hear them talk about state. That means that they are operating stateless, which adds complexity to anything that you're trying to do in terms of real-time decision-making and things of that nature.
Yeah. The whole stateless thing got hot because it was a way to make your stuff more scalable, right?
And it's the way the internet works, right?
Yeah. But guess what? People want to know the state of things.
They want to know the state. and they don't even know that they want to know the state. It's just you have a vision of what it is that you're trying to produce.
Yeah.
And your key objectives are so naturally we have to say up front, we are a stateful representation of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's almost an hour conversation just to get everyone's head into state as opposed to, the internet. No, look, I could care less about the internet. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why we monitor the connectivity of anything that's connected to a sensor or, wherever the data is traversing or anything like that. Whatever that medium is, we monitor it. Because we've run into instances where they're like, oh, your application. No, it's not the application. I'm sorry, friend. It is your connectivity.
Yeah.
True. Right. And actually, there was a concept in there's still actually in IoT Hub for what we call the device twin in there, where we were talking about a desired property for a device and a reported property with a timestamp. So we're able to actually indicate that's a concept that was super hard for customers to understand because we're telling them it's a reported property, but it has a timestamp. So it's the last known state, right? Because we have that wire in between the device and that twin, and you don't know if it's the real value, right? And then you had the notion of events and that you could eventually associate to a property. But it's, the notion of state was something that they were coming from like the world of like state machines, right? When you do OT, you're in that world, and then suddenly you're in a stateless world of value. Maybe that's another of the reasons why the two clans are clashing, because they have a different view of the world, right?
Could be. And so you have the asset avatar class was, if we go back to like how Dr. Greaves, kind of describes digital twins, there's the model and then the instance, and so the asset avatar would be the instance of the twin, and then the asset class, is the model And so all this stuff, how we're going to download software, do updates to software, over the air, it was all based on twins as well. It was crazy.
Cool.
But it kind of made sense to me, at least. I don't know. And to some other people in Japan, they were all in.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to say I had so much fun doing all this stuff. It was a blast.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it.
Actually, I see a lot of similarities on the unified namespace from Walker Reynolds, actually. Now the architecture looks like the unified namespace using the MQTT broker and the MQTT hierarchy with this. And actually, it gives you the freedom to use all of these classes and everything in every level that you need. So
right.
In 2025, it makes a lot of sense.
No, I totally get what you're saying. When he started talking about UNS and the goal of UNS was, I want all the data from everything in the enterprise and everywhere, all in this one place. And you're right, he thought of it as a hierarchical thing. And we used to talk about that. We called it data blending. One of the things we did, like when you're a product manager and you're trying to get a new product out the door. And so here you are, you're working on a V1 of a industrial IoT system. And you're telling, I'm trying to give level set to everyone on the team and the people in Japan that, hey, V1 isn't going to be a miracle. It's going to be just the basics, the table stakes stuff that you would see in any other IoT platform. Don't expect, because, we're starting from zero and we got to just build this thing. But there was always pressure to have differentiation, right? And why would we be better than Predix or what Siemens was doing or something like that? And so what I did was, so there was Hitachi Data Systems in Santa Clara. We were a group called Hitachi Insight Group, and we were in Bellevue. We're actually on 156. We were just down the street from the Microsoft campus. And then we also did an acquisition of a company in Orlando, Florida called Pentaho. And that's an open source platform that's like does ETL, connects anything to anything, and had a bunch of other capabilities. And so I was like, and we brought over a couple of people, engineers from the Pentaho team, and embedded them in the Lumada team. And I said, is there a way that we can make a 1.0 product look like a 3.0 product? And so I said, can we glue Lumada together with Pentaho to get us extra capabilities for our first versions so that we'll come out of the gate and look better than we would otherwise? Because I always said, connect, collect, analyze, and act. And so we didn't have that whole act part done yet,
Uh-oh.
Windows.
Well, lots of people, it's in visualization, but was more important to me, did I just die?
No, you
came back though. I was like,
okay, I'm back.
For a minute.
Yeah, I know, and I have horrible connectivity. I'm down here at the beach at a beach house in Ocean Shores, Washington. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So anyway, you guys are laughing at me.
We are.
No, I was just wondering what time is the barbecue?
It actually looks pretty nice outside. There's a beach like right there.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind you would like. It's not the kind that has warm tropical waters.
I don't care.
Ice cold water. Yeah. So, anywho, so we glued together the platforms, and then Pentaho had this kind of drag and drop kind of deal, kind of like you would see in like if you ever used SSIS inside of SQL Server or other ETL tools where you drag from source to destination to move data around. And so we had that. And so now telemetry is coming in. Everything went in and hydrated the digital twin of all the different assets and things like that. And then you had the source to destination, because what you want to do is you want to do financial companies call this straight through processing, process automation. So it's like, I want to take the action, because ultimately, in my mind, you might disagree, the ultimate goal of IoT was not to have a bunch of dashboards to look at. The ultimate goal was, can I create a lights out factory like the Tesla factory in Fremont, California, where it's fully automated. So in my mind, the ultimate end state for IoT was a headless, invisible system that got telemetry, determined insights, and took actions on the insights automatically. Humans not in the loop, if possible. And so being able to...
No 3D visualization, that's what you're saying, right?
That's right, no visualization. Nobody sitting there, nobody looking at control panels like Homer Simpson in a reactor. And so it would just take actions on insights and do the thing. Yeah. And that's because a lot of companies kept saying, I want an end-to-end solution and I want it to do the thing. I don't want you having fancy pictures and then I have to go figure out how to do the thing. You know, if the soil moisture in the farm says it needs water, then I need you to turn on the irrigation system automatically. And then I want you to turn it off when it's done. If I have a problem on my assembly line, I want your system to do whatever the thing it is. Don't wait for me to do the thing. And so that was always in my head from the customer feedback in these factories.
Sounds like
it's not the twin that does that. Right. This is that point I was making about the whole IT, OT conversation that Leonard, you kicked off. But it's the system integration and interoperability associated with what the twin is overlaid on. And that, I mean, I think a lot of people miss that. They're in there selling the thing and not doing the thing.
People want you to do the thing. I'm paying a lot of money for this platform, and I want it to do the damn thing.
Yeah. And actually,
is that
there's a big limitation actually to all the digital twins platforms I've seen, and that relates to what you were saying, Bill, which is it's centralized service, which will collect all the information, expose the model. It's never distributed. When do we have, like, is there out there, maybe there is, I don't know, a digital twin solution that would have a replica of the twin on an edge box that is able to be autonomous and to still present the model for actions to be taken locally, right? With local AI or algorithms and rules, still having the graph available to grab the information. And in that case, it could be the last known information from the cloud. As in, you know, when I was connected to the cloud lately, I had this piece of information. Now I'm just going to act in a autonomous way, but my local digital twin of the entire system is local, and I have the engine there, I have the graph there, and I've not seen anything out there that was doing that and keeping the different nodes, in sync and so on. That's an interesting product.
You know what? You should give this company I know called True North Software Solutions. You should give them a shout. They everything that you just articulated, they do a damn good job with that.
Yeah, they do.
I'll reach chat. I think I know a guy.
Yeah. And so Olivier, and that's what I was trying to demonstrate with those diagrams. It was just this hyper distributed system that could work. And it went from the endpoint to edge to wherever.
But you know, on your diagram, you had this notion of core up there, right? So and so it's distributed in terms of the intelligence is distributed, but you don't have a notion of distribution of the twin of the entire system being available everywhere. If you cut one of the connections, that leaf part is dead.
We would have multiple like super nodes.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Because we would, because if Olivier remembers a lot of my time at Microsoft, I was pigeonholed in this weird world of data replication. And I spent a lot of time in France because I was the only person who knew how to scale data replication. It was a weird, bizarre life that I had there. And so all those things were replicating all over the planet and down to edge nodes and things like that. It was super complicated, and we prototyped part of it, this version 3, but it never got built and never saw the light of day. But yeah, the last bits of it I designed with Steve Heggendorfer on whiteboards in Bellevue.
Yeah, wait. Before you guys go any further, I wanted to congratulate Marc for his new Edge Impulse / Qualcomm.
Good job.
Woohoo! Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Awesome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, last week we were going to do the big reveal, but it wasn't official. Well, it was official. It's just that you weren't
official, but exactly. I was still working at Balina, which is a great company, but now I'm lucky to work at Edge Impulse.
Yeah.
And we had some secret knowledge for a while, but we had to keep quiet about it.
Yeah.
Somebody was interviewing.
You're very good on keeping secrets.
Somebody's interviewing, see me working with Adam, Benzion, and those guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great team they've got there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're making a very good team. Yeah.
You're going to a great place. That's awesome, man. That's exciting.
Yeah, we got to talk, man. We got to talk.
The cool thing about Qualcomm is it's near where Leonard lives, and it's near Miramar Air Station. So,
is Miramar still there?
Yeah, it's a Marine Air Station now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean,
yeah, they moved Top Gun out of there,
and it's not any smaller because of it.
Right?
No.
Very, very.
No. Well, I mean, Coronado is.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them are still what they are, except for in the Bay Area, Moffett Field is dead, and North Island, I think, is not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Coronado, you've got SEALs on the south part of it, and the North Island is air stuff, Air Force, Naval Air Force. Yeah, as Leonard would tell you, San Diego is alive and well when it comes to military. It's a vibrant. You're right. It's awesome. It is sad, though, to not have Top Gun in Miramar anymore, though. That is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll tell you, there's still a lot of F-35s flying around, and
Love that.
A lot more F-35s. So
really,
I've been IDing a ton of them flying over. So I think they're switching over pretty quickly, from what I.
Is the F-35 that's one like the Harrier that can do that? And
the C version can do that.
Yeah. As opposed to the F-22 Raptor.
That one's for showing off.
Love it. There's nothing better, man. It's just
showing off.
Isn't it the best when you're at the Del Coronado sitting outside on the deck at sunset, having a drink, and then helicopters are going over you and fighter jets, and you're just like, USA, USA.
Shit is
do you know the story of the Cold War during the Cold War between the Russian planes and the American ones?
I know some stories.
I know a lot of.
Actually, the U.S. Army discovered a Russian plane during the Cold War. So they started inspecting it, and they discovered that it was faster, it was better, it was more reliable, etc. But they had the question. They didn't understand why. So they had the spies, and they didn't know why Russian pilots needed to be super fit. So they saw that the pilots of the American planes were not fit or kind of, right. They were somewhere more fat than others and so on, right. So, but the Russians were 8 hours in the gym and so on. So they they tried to fly one of the Russian planes, and they discovered that it was really hard to manage the. It's not a steering wheel, right? But whatever they use, they needed to be.
It was all hydraulics, right?
Yeah, all the hydraulics. So they needed to be super strong.
Yeah.
So in Vietnam, they discovered that to fight with the planes there, so they found like a specific altitude where the American planes, well, it's not planes, I don't know how it's called, these F whatever, were better than the Russians in specific altitudes and specific speeds, but in any other cases, the Russians were better. And then they realized that they did a very, very good job creating, I don't know how is it called for a plane, the steering wheel or whatever it's used on this type of jets, but that actually helped a lot on the user experience for the pilots. No, they didn't need to be 8 hours in the gym. to pilot one of them.
Fly by wire.
These Americans finding ways to not have to go to the gym, right? They found the expensive way versus the cheap Russian way of just like get tougher and you can move that freaking stick, right? So,
because when you're flying out of Miramar, you want to be able to also be holding your In-N-Out burger while you're flying.
Well, it's like power steering, right? Difference. I don't know what you call non-powered and powered steering. Actually, you had a bit more control and more of an analog feel when you drove without power steering than like the Cadillacs back in the day. Remember that? Where you can really turn the wheel a quarter turn and it's still going straight. It was like ridiculous. But everything performance, typically, you're not having assistance. Some fighter pilots. I mean, if you think about it, it's such a precision exercise. You want to have the feel for the machine, and I don't know.
An analogy. I remember a German friend of mine in the early 90s was very frustrated with the Acura NSX sports car. And he would read all these German car magazines, for performance. And he said what he hated about the NSX is it was too easy to drive very well. Because he's like, no, with a Porsche, you need to go to a special school to learn how to drive this thing because it's so hard to drive very well. It requires skills. But that stupid NSX, my grandmother could get in there and just smoke somebody on the track. And he's like, it's all wrong, And so it's got to be hard to do. So maybe that's kind of like your Russian MiG being too hard to fly than an F-16 fly-by-wire or something like that.
Yeah, well, we always give up to technology at some point, right? Because technology helps us push back our own limitations. So we hit a limitation, we add technology, and then we hit a new one. Like pilots now, they have to be fit, not because of the controls, because now it's all electronics, but because of the G's. Like these planes can take angles and acceleration is such that these human beings and bodies cannot go through it, right? Natural one or
except for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, except for freaking Tom Cruise. Like, gosh, my hero, like 60 something, and he's like,
I
know, man. Oh, you bent the airframe of the F-18. Thanks. Yeah.
Went beyond the physical limits of the plane.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
That's right.
It's about the pilot. It's all about the pilot.
In the box. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. You know what? That's a great goal to be in shape at that age, like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, but technology is catching up, and so now you'll be like in Nevada and in front of the screen and just like driving a plane that is a drone remotely, and you don't need to be fit. You can actually have your burger while you're driving the plane.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Technology
you're right.
is pushing back, like pushing the limit away.
It's like we trained all these kids on Xbox, and now they're in the back of an 18-wheeler trailer outside of Las Vegas flying drones that are on the other side of the planet.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that's one of the tricky things is going to be the incorporation of a lot of these standalone drones that are Gen AI driven. There's a lot of experimentation going on with.
Yeah, do you think so?
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to get rid of the hallucinations. Come on, and then what kind of impact that has in the when you're in the battlefield. It's going to be interesting to see a lot of militaries experiment with AI, generative AI in particular. They've already been using AI forever, right? I mean, that's why you do have semi-autonomous weapon platforms and stuff like that. But now they're starting to, especially in the last mile or last few hundred yards, they're giving these systems full autonomy, right? And so it's literally fire and forget at that point. And so how does that all play?
The question is going to be: are you going to be trying and destroying the equivalent equipment of the enemy, or the place where they are controlling that equipment from?
Both.
And so it's it's going to move things from one place to another one. Yeah, and the other thing is
adopting this posture.
Military is going to be like all other industries. There's going to be a reduction in number of employees because you don't need that many people.
See, that's the thing. All the machines are going to get pissed off because we're throwing them into the battlefield. They're going, hey, why are we doing this? This is ridiculous, right? And then that's when that whole Terminator scenario happens and Skynet turns on and becomes like, self-aware and says, hey, this is kind of lame. Why are the machines getting destroyed?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember
outcome, right? I mean, you can't guardrail these things forever.
We might get to a point. I don't know if you'll remember this from the original Star Trek series. There was an episode where they came to a planet where warring factions on each side of the planet were having a battle, but they became so sophisticated that they weren't actually blowing each other up. They would, they'd have a control center on, side A and their side B, and they go, oh, we just took a hit, in sector 12 or whatever. And then whatever people were in that sector had to go in single file line and go be killed, like exterminated or whatever. And they were just living like that. That's their battle. They sanitized the battle, so nothing was being blown up, nothing was happening, and people would just walk if they happened to be in the wrong place. And it was the most bizarre thing.
War.
Yeah, it was just like, Captain Kirk had to bring him back to reality and just say, hey guys, I can destroy the entire surface of your planet for real with the Enterprise up in orbit here. You guys are crazy living like this.
But those guys with the painted faces?
I don't remember if it was the painted faces.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. They had an episode where they had two fighting factions, and they had I guess face paint that was the opposite, right? Basically had black on one side, white on the other side. Right. Warring factions basically had them on the opposite side of their faces. So that wasn't that episode. I forgot.
It might have been. I don't know if they were doing that. It sounds kind of like Braveheart to me as well. But who knows?
Guys,
what
can I go to 20 minutes ago or with a question? Can I go to 20 minutes ago?
Yeah.
To get your whys.
Yes.
So we were talking about Lumada predicts, now the Siemens IoT platform or industrial IoT platform. Why all of this failed?
No, that's a good question. I can tell you why Predix failed. They were given a blank checkbook by their then CEO, and a handful of people, a very small group of people, were empowered to do. Because I worked temporarily when the GE Digital guys, because GE Digital collapsed. They spent billions to build a GE Predix cloud, and then they had to write it off. And Predix was this thing, because I get to hear the whole story, because when those guys all got laid off, some of them made it to Hitachi, and one of them became my boss temporarily before the whole thing collapsed.
Remember that.
And he told me the whole story and everything like that of how they came upon why they wanted to do predictive maintenance. It was kind of the initial idea, because some of their partners were using Hadoop and finding, be able to do predictive maintenance on GE equipment. And GE was like, why are our partners better at diagnosing our equipment problems before us? And so that's where they came up with Predix, and they hired thousands of people in San Ramon, California. And it got so big, and then turns out they were just losing money like crazy. And so they laid off 11,000 people in San Ramon, and all those people got fired, and Predix died. And, and we had people, I know lots of people that worked there. You saw stupid ads on TV for people saying, I'm an engineer at GE. And they go, oh, a train engineer? No, I'm a programmer, and stuff like that. And so money and hubris and rapid expansion is what killed them. Also, they were early with digital twins, and they had a cool conference called Mind and Machines. And so they had some great vision, but they were also arrogant. And because I would meet their customers, like we would come in after the GE team with the Hitachi team, and they go, yeah, they want to create digital twins of all our stuff, but then they want to put our stuff into a public library of digital twins that everyone can see and buy. And they're like, hell no. All those people are our competitors. You're never going to see a digital twin of my machines in my factory. And so GE kept doing stuff like that, and that was just bonkers. Lumada is because the GE guys came in there and they said, oh, this looks like a lot like what we did with Predix. We should probably shut this down. And so it started, and they ended up turning Lumada into more of a marketing term. It was an umbrella term over a lot of different things. And so that's how that faded. PTC, they were early and they were going hard. And then
but it's still a thing, PTC, right?
Yeah. Yeah, ThingWorks,
I have the feeling that it's been that eternal problem of technologists coming up with a great technology with some ideas of how to use it, and then we're trying to find the problem that their technology would solve. And the customer were just like, I don't have this problem yet. I might in the future, but I don't have time to think about it.
Yeah.
And so we were all coming with, like, at Microsoft, we're coming with like IoT Central and digital twins and blah, blah, blah. And all the technology I was saying is starting to come to people's mind right now, as in, hey, if we had something to model, my data, it's like, well, wait a second, we talked about that 5 years ago and you don't remember? Yeah. And that's the failure to me is due to the fact that it's like too soon and we're back to the eternal or topic, which is not caring about the actual needs of the customer. And hey, here's my beautiful technology, and use it. Yeah, you'll find a reason to use it. And they're just like, no, actually, I need to justify that investment and tell me what the ROI is, because I don't have the problem, or I don't see there's a problem, or I don't think today this problem is worth investing to solve, because it's fine, because I'm still positive there. And so it's the same problem again and again. And later on, like, the only ones that will be successful are the ones that can survive these 5 to 10 years. And are holding on the technology versus dumping the teams, dumping the development on them and so forth.
Yeah. I remember Google, desperate early on. They launched their IoT stuff.
Yeah, you and I were there
and nobody was showing up, and they acquired a company called Xively, which was an early, smaller IoT group. And do you know why they acquired them? Not because Xively technology was great. They acquired them to get the people who worked there who actually knew about IoT. Because it turns out, and to Olivier's point, you had a bunch of technologists who actually didn't know about the world that they were playing in, but they were able to build stuff. And so they hired Xively people, just, and then it didn't work out for them either. And so I think there's a theme here of a lot of really smart people, a lot of money and time, and failure everywhere.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the promise of 7 Sigma, and nobody needs it. That's what everyone finds out. It's like we're already at 6 Sigma, or at least it's tough enough to get there. We don't.
What I started hearing that worried me is when you said, "Oh, well, I can save your business $1 million a year if you did this IoT thing," and they would go, "You know what? I don't care. That's not enough." Yeah. If you said you'd save them 10 million or 100 million, then they might be interested. But it turns out the incremental improvements from the IoT platforms, a lot of companies are like, whatever.
Well, what's really interesting, contemplate this, how catastrophic the whole generative AI thing can turn out to be. Because what we've done on the deterministic side of, industry is try to get to this very high precision, high reliability, and then we're introducing a technology that is completely the opposite of it, and you have to throw a massive amount of compute to get anything close to anything on the deterministic side of things. think about that for a moment and how everybody is investing so much in basically twisting the math to take all this, 80%, lack of accuracy technology and try to get to 7 nines or 5 nines or whatever. I mean, if it can't get you from 5 nines to 6 nines or 7 nines, what use is it? It'll actually set you back, right? When you look at a lot of the principles of quality, what do you need? Do you need something a little more probabilistic and squishy, or do you need stuff that continues to improve, statistically the quality of what you output, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the twisted thinking, man, about all this generative AI stuff.
It's like your twisted sister.
Yes. Maybe that's what we should play next week.
Because people understand deterministic things.
Yeah.
A calculator gives me the answer I'm looking for every time. Generative
the
AI.
Same answer, eh?
Yeah, generative AI is probabilistic statistics based, and it's guessing based on statistics. And it will give you the answer many times, the right answer, but sometimes it won't.
Yeah, but then it scales out the wrong answer. That's a problem. Yeah. Massively with amazing automation.
Got to be careful out there adopting this stuff.
So it basically zeroes out everything, any benefit that you think you get. I mean,
the good news though is that once AI took over everything, that's going to be the new reality is going to be the hallucination of AIs one, right? Because everything will be digital, and so everything will be proposed as a view of the world will be whatever AI decides to show us, and so we'll be living in the Matrix, right? Something like that.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a price to be paid for that, right? Because reality is reality. You can create the illusion, but you have to pay for it in some form, right?
Reality is whatever they plug into your brain, and your brain thinks is real, but it may not be.
Well, actually,
you don't believe in universal income?
In a prompt-driven society.
Yeah.
Prompt-driven.
Universal income.
We might have to do that.
Like everyone can stay in their seats, getting fat and living in the virtual reality.
Like WALL-E.
Like WALL-E.
Like WALL-E.
Like,
yes.
Ready Player One.
One of these days we should do a whole session on how we're going to solve all that problem through giant policy changes and economic policy changes and everything to have a world where everyone's unemployed and yet not burning society to the ground.
You mean we need regulators and regulations that work? And
you just got to figure out. I think it's gonna.
You're bold, man.
Well, I think. Don't you feel like we have to be bold in this moment? Maybe. Yeah.
I think we have. Problem is that the easy way is the coward way of not saying that we need this kind of things and going the opposite and like everyone claiming selfishly, I want my own freedom and screw the others. And so not believing in regulations is not good. Survival of the fittest means like survival of no one. And
Wild Wild West.
Yeah. It's bad.
And regulations can be changed. So if everything is based on regulations and in laws,
regulations are supposed to
tomorrow
adapt.
can be changed, right?
Yeah. Regulations are supposed to adapt, right, to changing environment and conditions, but they have to not be decided by some like one individual or entity on their own or by lobbies or whatever. They have to be decided for the common good versus for someone's good.
Well, Elon made a change.
Oh, jeez.
No, but maybe we should do an episode of movies and TV and series chapters or something, no? That can predict the future and where are we going to go?
Yeah.
What do you want to do, man? You know how we do.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of movies, go see F1. It was awesome.
Really?
That was
I thought you
great movie. Really good.
I thought you wanted to recommend again Independence Day.
Well, you have to do that automatically on the 4th of July. No matter what country you live in, you are required to watch that.
Yeah, because Bill Pullman saved the entire world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Christmas is Die Hard, and 4th of July is Independence Day. Yeah.
Independence Day, exactly. Remember, fly your plane right up into the main weapon of the
Yeah.
aliens, and then
And Mark, don't ever say Americans are basic, right? It's
I haven't said that.
All right, let's wrap this up, guys. So who wants to take us out? Rob, come on.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here on IoT Coffee Talk on the 4th of July, Independence Day for the Estados Unidos. And we are so happy that you joined us. And we talked about a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of digital twin talk this time, a lot of DeFi, distributed systems and everything moving around. And I think that's pretty cool. We also talked about the fallacy of a lot of really smart tech people with unlimited money all failing at building technology, and it just didn't sell. Because remember, in the end, the customer has to buy what you're building. And if they don't, sorry. So anyway, talk to your customers, listen to customers. Don't act like you're smarter than them and talk down to them. Listen to customers. They'll tell you what they want. Be customer obsessed, right? Yes. Also, elevate our kids. We got to pump up those kids. We need to help them. They need to learn. Right? I know there's some generative AI people that says they don't need to learn anymore. They're just going to have everything automatically happen, and they're going to be like Wall-E in a pod.
Yeah.
I want them to learn. And so let's elevate our kids. Let's get them some laptops and connectivity so that if they can't get to the classroom, they can learn online and stuff like that. So we are here to help. Go to elevateourkids.org to donate, buy some merch. That's what we're here for. We're here to help the kids. I hope everybody has a great day. If any of you who live in the United States, go have a barbecue. Go have a hot dog. Have a hot dog. And you know me, I'm all about the hot dog, right? Chili dog, specifically. Chili dog.
Okay. This thing doesn't work. I'm trying to make the fire
No,
work.
you have to do it like this.
Okay.
It doesn't work. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll see you on the other side. Adios.